The 5th Division was an infantry division of the Australian Army which served during the First and Second World Wars. The division was formed in February 1916 as part of the expansion of the Australian Imperial Force infantry brigades. In addition to the existing 8th Brigade were added the new 14th and 15th Brigades, which had been raised from the battalions of the 1st and 2nd Brigades respectively. From Egypt the division was sent to France, where they served in the trenches along the Western Front. After the war ended and the AIF was demobilized, the 5th Division name was revived in 1921 and assigned to an Australian Citizens Military Forces unit. During the Second World War the division was mobilized for the defense of North Queensland in 1942, when it was believed that the area was a prime site for an invasion by Japanese forces. Most of the division was concentrated in the Townsville area, although the 11th Brigade Group was detached for the defense of Cairns and Mariba. In 1943–45, the division took part in the New Guinea Campaign. First World War. Egypt on formation in February 1916, the 5th Division joined 2nd Anzac Corps. When the more experienced 1st Anzac Corps embarked for France at the end of the month, they took most of the available artillery pieces and trained artillery personnel, leaving the 2 Anzac divisions to train new artillery batteries from scratch, a process that would take 3 months. Major General the Honourable J. W. M.K., a formerly commander of the Australian 2nd Infantry Brigade, assumed command of the division on the 22nd of March 1916. The first test for the division was a training march of 40 miles from the Anzac camp at Tel El-Kabir to the Suez Canal defences, which were being maintained in expectation of a Turkish attack. MK objected to the undertaking, but nevertheless imposed strict march discipline on his men, taking 3 days over soft sand and in extreme heat. The men in the brigade suffered severely and the march was completed in disarray. The 5th Division began arriving in France in July 1916, the last of the 4 Australian divisions from Egypt to Dessau. At this time the Battle of the Somme was underway and going badly for the British. The 3 Australian divisions of 1st Anzac Corps, which had been acclimatizing on the quiet sector near Armentières, had been dispatched to the Somme as reinforcements, and so the 5th Division took the place at Armentières on the 12th of July 1916. Fromelles. The result of this move was that the 5th Division, the most inexperienced of the Australian divisions in France, would be the first to see major action in the Battle of Fromelles. A week after going into the trenches, the Germans had been reinforcing the Somme front with troops from the north. The British planned a demonstration to try to pin these troops to the front. The attack was masterminded by Lieutenant General Richard Haking, commander of the British 11th Corps, which adjoined 2nd Anzac Corps to the south. The aim was to reduce the slight German salient known as the Sugarloaf, northwest of the German-held town of Fromelles. The 5th Division happened to be the unit facing the northern flank of the salient. By the time the attack was ready to be launched, its purpose as a preliminary diversion to the main action at the Somme had passed. Yet Haking and his army commander, General Sir Charles Munro, were keen to go ahead. At 6 p.m. on the 19th of July 1916, after 11 hours of preliminary bombardment, the 5th Division and British 61st Division attacked. The Australian 8th and 14th Brigades, attacking north of the salient, occupied the German trenches but became isolated and outflanked. They were forced to withdraw, through withering German enfilades by morning. The 15th Brigade and the British 184th Brigade were cut to pieces while attempting to cross no man's land. The 8th and 14th Brigades were forced to withdraw, through withering German enfilades, the following morning. The failure was compounded when the British 61st Division asked the Australian 15th Brigade to join in a renewed attempt at 9 p.m., but cancelled without informing the Australians. Consequently, half of the Australian 58th Battalion made another futile, solo effort to capture the salient. The battle was responsible for the greatest loss of Australian lives in one 24-hour period. The 5,533 Australian casualties, including 400 prisoners, were equivalent to the total Australian losses in the Boer War, Korean War and Vietnam War combined. The 5th Division was effectively incapacitated for many months afterwards. Two battalions, the 60th and the 32nd, each suffered more than 700 casualties, or more than 90% of the fighting strength, and had to be rebuilt. Out of 887 personnel from the 60th Battalion, only one officer in 106 other ranks survived. The 32nd Battalion sustained 718 casualties. The attack had completely failed as a diversion when its limited nature became obvious to the German defenders. The perceived failure of the British 61st Division poisoned relations between the AIF divisions and the British. In its communiques, the British GHQ passed the Battle of Fromelles off as some important raids. The 5th Division was not ready for combat again until October 1916, when it joined the other Australian divisions on the Somme, in extreme winter conditions. Hindenburg Line, 1917. In January 1917, Major General Talbot Hobbs assumed command of the 5th Division. When the German retreat to the Hindenburg Line began on the 24th of February 1917, the division joined the pursuit, skirmishing with the German screen covering the withdrawal. On the 17th of March 1917, the 30th Battalion attacked towards Bapaume, the objective of the previous year's Somme offensive, and found the town abandoned, a smoking ruin. The 15th Brigade advanced south of Bapaume until, having lost touch with the British 4th Army units on its flank, was ordered to halt. By the 24th of March 1917, the headlong advance had ended and a period of cautious approach to the Hindenburg defences began. On the 2nd of April 1917, the 14th Brigade captured the villages of Doignies and Louverville before the 5th Division was relieved by the Australian 1st Division. When General Allenby's British Third Army launched the Battle of Arras on the 9th of April 1917, the Australian divisions, part of General Gough's British Fifth Army since the Somme fighting, were called on to participate in an attempt to break the German flank on the Hindenburg Line at Bullecourt. The 5th Division at this time was part of Iron-Sac under General Birdwood. It avoided the first of the fighting but was thrown into the closing stages of the Second Battle of Bullecourt, which had begun on the 3rd of May 1917. The division was mainly responsible for holding on against German counterattacks. After the Bullecourt fighting subsided on the 17th of May 1917, the 5th Division, along with the rest of Iron-Sac, was withdrawn for a long rest. Third Battle of Ypres. The 5th Division took over from the 1st Division following the Battle of Menin Road on the 20th of September, which was the start of a phase of bite-and-hold, limited objective attacks in the Third Battle of Ypres. The next step was taken on the 26th of September in the Battle of Polygon Wood, with two Australian divisions attacking in the centre of 7 divisions. The previous day a German counter-attack had driven in the neighbouring brigade of the British 10th Corps. However, the attack was ordered to proceed, despite the Australian 15th Brigade's flank being exposed. Attacking with an open flank, the 15th Brigade, supported by 2 battalions of the 8th Brigade, reached its objectives, and captured some of X-Corps' objectives as well. The 14th Brigade, attacking on the left, captured Polygon Wood. In keeping with current policy, the attacking divisions were immediately relieved and the 5th Division was spared involvement in most of the worst fighting that followed as the British line edged towards Passchendaele. The 5th Division returned to action in late March as the German Spring Offensive, launched on the 21st of March, began to threaten the vital rail hub of Amiens. On the 4th of April, the 15th Brigade, which had been guarding crossings of the River Somme, moved to Holt Hill 104 north of the town of Villers-Bretonneux, a place that was to become famous in Anzac legend. By mid-April, a renewed German push for Amiens was evident and the entire 5th Division was put into the line astride the Somme. When the attack came on the 24th of April, the 15th Brigade was back in reserve west of Villers-Bretonneux, which was defended by the British 3rd Corps. The German assault, for the first time spearheaded by tanks, succeeded in capturing the town and neighboring woods. 3rd Corps was lent the 15th Brigade and the 13th Brigade to mount a counter-attack. Attacking after 10 p.m. that night, the 2 brigades encircled the town, the 15th from the north and the 13th from the south, and after dawn the town itself was recaptured. This victory marked the end of the German advance towards Amiens. In the period leading up to the final Allied offensive, Australian divisions used peaceful penetration to continually harass the German opposition. On the night of the 29th of July, units of the 5th Division raided the German defences near Morlancourt, capturing 128 prisoners, 36 machine guns and 2 trench systems. 100 Days 1918. When the 100 Days campaign began with the Battle of Amiens on the 8th of August 1918, the Australian Corps attacked from between Villers-Bretonneux and Hamel. The 5th Division was to follow up the initial attack of the 2nd Division, passing through to take Harbonnières, an advance of 2 miles. On the following day, the 5th Division, which had meant to be relieved by the 1st Division, continued the advance with the 15th Brigade supporting the neighbouring advance made by the Canadian Corps and the 8th Brigade taking Vauvilers. In late August 1918, the 5th Division followed the German retreat to the Somme near Péronne. On the 31st of August, while the 2nd Division attacked Mont-Saint-Quentin, the 5th Division stood ready to exploit any opportunity to cross the Somme and take Péronne. On the 1st of September 1918, the 14th Brigade captured the woods north and followed up by taking the main part of the town. The 15th Brigade captured the rest of the town the following day. By the time the Australian Corps reached the Hindenburg Line on the 19th of September 1918, the 5th Division was one of only 2 Australian divisions fit for action, the other being the 3rd. The 15th Brigade's 60th Battalion had already been disbanded to keep other battalions up to strength for the attack on the Hindenburg Line to be made on the 29th of September 1918. The Corps was reinforced by the American 27th and 30th Divisions. The 5th Division followed up the initial attack made by the American 30th Division, and by the 1st of October 1918 the first 2 Hindenburg Line trench systems had been captured. The 5th Division was relieved by the 2nd Division, and when on the 5th of October 1918 the Australian Corps handed over its line to the U.S. 2nd Corps, the division was withdrawn to the coast for a rest that would last until the end of the war. Order of battle. Upon formation, the division consisted of the following infantry units: 8th Brigade, 29th Battalion, 30th Battalion, 31st Battalion, 32nd Battalion, 14th Brigade, 53rd Battalion, 54th Battalion, 55th Battalion, 56th Battalion, 15th Brigade, 57th Battalion, 58th Battalion, 59th Battalion, 60th Battalion, 5th Division Artillery, 5th Division Field Ambulance, 5th Pioneer Battalion, 5th Machine Gun Battalion. Commanders: 1916–17, Marge Gen. J.W. McKay 1917–19, Marge Gen. J.J.T. Hobbs. Second World War. The division was formed in 1942 at Marist Brothers College, Ashgrove, Brisbane. An advance party of 25 officers and 55 other ranks from the divisional headquarters arrived in Townsville on 30 April 1942, along with an advance party of 40 members of the 29th Infantry Brigade. They traveled by train and were initially accommodated at the Townsville Showground staging camp. The infantry and field regiments were distributed widely around the Townsville area, including Aitkenville, Antill Plains, Castle Hill, Jimmy's Lookout, Belgian Gardens and Mount Louisa. The headquarters for the 5th Australian Division were located at Aitkenville in Townsville in May 1942. In December 1942, the headquarters was located in a reinforced concrete bunker at Roseneath. 5 DIV signals were also located at Roseneath. Major General Edward Milford was appointed commanding officer of the 5th Division in mid-1942 under Lieutenant General James Durant, Commander-in-Chief Northern Command. Durant promoted the evacuation of non-essential civilians and a scorched earth policy in the event of invasion, to the local town and shire councils and the Chamber of Commerce. They began plans for the demolition of airfields and other vital defence facilities in North Queensland, such as the Townsville Harbour facilities and Rhoda rail bridges. If communications with Northern Command were severed, the 5th Australian Division commander was to assume command of all Allied Forces services. For this purpose an operations room was set up at HQ 5 DIV. In the event of an invasion, the 5th Division would have had the following responsibilities: attack any enemy force landing between Rolling Stone and the Bola River and/or advancing from the north, creating a holding force in the Clevedon-Woodstock Hill area with the task of opposing an enemy landing in Bowling Green Bay, and halting any advance towards Townsville, the blocking of roads connecting the coast and inland from Ingham and from Moongobola, demolitions in the Ingham area and, if necessary, the destruction of the Mount Speck and Mount Fox roads, the manning of beach defense guns for the defense of beaches between Bola River and Rolling Stone, and between Houghton River and Chunder Bay. 1943–45. On 23 August 1943, the division under Milford moved to the north coast of New Guinea, to take over the Salamaua campaign in its dying stages. The division occupied Salamaua on the 11th of September. During 1945, the division took part in the New Britain campaign. Commanders: Marge Gen. Edward Milford, Marge Gen. Alan Ramsey, Marge Gen. Horace Robertson.